Hey, thank you for joining me for another Facebook Live Friday. Today I want to talk about how to write and design your website effectively. And if you are just joining me for the first time today, this is part of the web prep checklist series that I've been going through. This is actually step 5 of that series. So if you haven't seen the first step, I recommend going back, starting from there. But if you just want to catch the copywriting portion today, that's what we're going to talk about. So here's what I want to talk about today. The number one website mistake that I see new business owners or DIY people making when it comes to their site. 2, why you should write your copy. 3, how to find your flow and map that out. 4, my structure stealing method so that you don't have to start with a blank page when you're writing. And then copy conversations and how we can use those to get more conversions. So I do have a checklist that goes through this whole series, starting with step number 1 and going all the way through the 7 steps. You can get that at craftingcreative.com/checklist. And if this is your first time meeting me, I'm Megan. I have a website called craftingcreative.com where I work with service-based creative entrepreneurs to craft websites that bring them more consistent clients without hustling and marketing. So let's dive into mistake number 1 that I see is people cramming their copy into a beautiful theme or template that they've purchased. And this thinking is really that copy is separate or ancillary to design, whereas copy is actually the foundation. So a really good website starts with really good copy, and then once we've got that copy in place, the design becomes almost effortless. So why you need to write copy? If you think about it, we all need to market ourselves as creative entrepreneurs. And marketing in an online world really comes down to writing effectively. So without compelling content, we're not able to attract our dream clients. And so we need to learn to speak to them effectively. And that comes down to learning how to write better. If you're interested in learning from the woman who taught me how to write really easily, my friend Hillary has a website called thewordshops.org, and I think her program is still open. It's the one that I took that really unlocked copywriting for me in a way that no other course had before. So if you're interested, you can definitely go there and check that out. Now that we've talked about why you should write your own copy, let's talk about where to start. So if you want to know what to write where, first you need to map out the overall flow. This means the layout and flow of your individual pages as well as how they flow together. Think about an individual page and how the content is laid out on that page, where it's starting and where it's ending, and then the main call to action that you'll have. Then think about how each of those pages can fit together into a cohesive whole. So I'm talking about the overall site architecture, or like the site map. So think about these questions when you're trying to create your site map and the flow of your pages. Number 1, why are people visiting your site? Is it because they had a particular problem that you promised to solve? Did they search for you on Google? Like, why are they coming? Number 2, where are they coming from? Is it from a Facebook post? Is it from Google? Is it from a referral or some other source? Number 3, which page are they going to land on first? Is it a landing page that you're driving traffic to through a Facebook ad? Is it your home page? Is it a blog post? And then where do you want them to go next once they've landed on that initial page? And then what is the primary call to action that you have on each page of your website? So when it comes to mapping your site flow, one thing I forgot to mention is that I do a content audit if you already have a website. So this means I'll have a spreadsheet and I'll just go through each page of the website that I have so I can get a picture of what I have already in place. And then I know what elements I need to include on my map. And I can also note there if I need to improve upon a page, or maybe I can eliminate the page. And I'm actually happy to share that content audit spreadsheet with you if you want. I just ask that you share this video out with a friend or your audience, and then let me know in the comments that you shared it, and then I'll send you a link to that spreadsheet in a direct message. So I like this quote from Tara Gentile: "Great marketers start with a foundation and template for execution." And what she means by this is that she's not starting from a blank page every time. She's got a template or a structure in place that she knows works, and then she can use that again and again for different pages of content on her website. And my method, or my template that I like to use again and again, is one I call modular structure. So when it comes to copy, what I mean by modular structure is that I have sort of a loose template outline of each section of content that I'll have on a page. And what that looks like in terms of design is that each section of content then becomes a row or a module on the page. And the cool thing about Squarespace is if you're using an index page, then you're automatically getting that modular design because you're having rows of content right there that you can easily drag and drop and move around or add or delete. So it makes it really easy to do that way. So one way that I established this structure or template that I have is to source inspiration from other people that I really admire and like their work. So I call this structure stealing. And it's not about stealing the words or the colors or even the ideas, but about finding that creative spine behind the work. So Twyla Tharp is an author and a ballet dancer, and she introduced me to that concept of a creative spine. So I like to think about that when I'm looking at inspiration and why it is that I like it. So here's an example of an about page that I think is really great. It's from Carolyn Zook of Made Vibrant. And it really comes down to 3 core modules. So if I were to steal the structure of this page, I would start by looking at each of those modules and then identifying the main theme of that. So her first one is about belief. And it's not just belief in general, but it's a specific belief or philosophy of why she started this brand, and more specifically, how it's different from other common thoughts or ideas on the internet. The second module on this page is about her journey, and specifically as it relates to her starting and building this brand. And then the third core module on the page is about her brand values and then what they mean and what they have to offer her site visitors. So I could then use those 3 modules to do my own about page. It wouldn't be anything like Carolyn's, but I've still sourced that idea from her structure. And just to further refine, after I've done this, I want to ask myself some reflection questions to make sure that I'm on the right track. So the first one is context. Does this work within the larger context of my website? And then I want to think about appeal. Is this going to appeal to my target audience and who I want to talk to? And then the objectives. Is this helping me meet my business objectives for my website? And have I made this my own? And then improvement. Is there anything that I could add or remove that would improve on this page? So now we want to talk about how to convert people that are visiting on our website. Conversions just mean that they're taking some desired action that we've defined. So it could mean that they are signing up to our email list. It could mean that they're inquiring to be a client, or it could mean that they're sharing our work on social media. It's whatever that predefined action is that we've determined is what we want to happen. That's the conversion. And in order to get people to want to take that conversion step, we need to establish rapport with them. And having a conversation is a great way to have that rapport and encourage them to take action. So something that I've learned about websites is they are really the space where our conversation is taking place. They're the storefront, but they're not what we're selling. So we want to have a nice, clean space for the conversation to take place, but we really need to allow that copy to happen without being cluttered with visual design elements. 2 things that I like to think about to have a good, clear conversation is to keep it concise and client-focused. So I don't want to talk a lot about myself, and I don't want to use a lot of unnecessary flowery language. I want to keep it really concise, to the point, but still personable, like I'm having a conversation with someone. And then I want to let them speak. So there are certain points on our website, areas where the visitor has a chance to raise their hand and take action and say, yes, like I'm interacting with your site. Those interaction points would be buttons or links. So in those cases, I like to use I-centric language because it's coming from the point of view of my visitor. So whereas the rest of the copy is going to be you focused, I'm going to say do you want to do this? And then the button or the call to action is going to be I focused. So they're going to say, yes, I do want to do this. Does that make sense? How it's like a two-way conversation in that way? All right, so let's recap. Today, I talked about why good copy is the foundation of a good website, why writing is marketing and why you actually need to market yourself, how you need a map to know how to get to where you're going, and then ditching the blank page and stealing structure from inspiring sources. And then having a conversation so that you can build the rapport that will lead to conversions. This was step 5, like I said, for the web prep checklist. In the first video, it's not on this list, but it was just the overview of the process. And I talked about how to get booked out with clients through your website. And then in the first step, I talked about establishing your website goals and how I don't use smart ones, but I actually use a different method for defining them. In step 2, we talked about ideal client research and why I don't recommend surveys. Step 3 was about your competitive edge and honing in on your value proposition. Last week, we talked about uncovering your personal brand values and how you can do that with a simple exercise. And then today was all about how I use structure to write the copy and design my page layouts. So next week, I'm going to talk about logos, colors, and fonts, and how you can do that easily and on your own without hiring a graphic designer. And once again, if you want to grab the checklist of this process, you can get it from craftingcreative.com/checklist. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. Put them in the comments below. I will go through and answer all of them. Thank you, and I will see you next week to talk about logos and colors. All right, bye.